Hello everyone, I'm joined today with my very special guest, Jessica Mendez. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I was talking about how it was a bit of a rush this morning, getting a haircut, getting ready, doing the whole 3D stuff. And you're joining us today from Portugal, right?
Correct.
In Lisbon or
Algarve, the sunny southern part of Algarve,
I
of
love
Portugal.
I love Portugal. So you're quite infamous on social media, actually, on TikTok. You've got over 40,000 followers, and your IG handle as well. It's at Guided Space. And you've got a YouTube channel as well, which is at Jessica Mendez Official. And you also do Telegram and other things. You're quite unique in the way in which, like, for example, you've got your name, but then your sort of like social media presence is a different, like Guided Space. Mine's My Spiritual Soul. So how did you come up with that name?
So back in 2016, when I had a different awakening, not due to my twin flame, but I had just my own spiritual awakening. I went to a retreat and I just got awakened and fell in love with meditation and yoga and all these like spiritual practices. And I was so in my 3D mind before that I wanted to bring what I was experiencing to life and like teach people and show people. So then I was like, I need to create a blog. I want to create an Instagram, social media, like really get into it. And so I created a blog and it was guidedspace.com. And the point of it was a space to guide you from within. And so it was like I was, talking about meditation and yoga and all these different techniques to help people kind of go within. So it started in 2016, but unfortunately, like, I fell off the path and started going into lifestyle blog, back into the 3D.
There's
Um,
nothing wrong with that. And I get twin flames asking me, what's my purpose? Like, do I have to be this savior of the world? No, like you bring your light to fashion.
right. Yeah. But it wasn't me, like I love fashion. I love those types of things. But it was like coming from a place of ego because it wasn't who I was on a soul level. Like it was more, I was trying to fit in and trying to, make money off of like my blog and like, oh my God, how am I gonna make money? And like I gotta do what sells, right? What sells? Like what do people love? It's fashion. Exactly. So I was like, I started doing it for the wrong reasons. I started off doing it for the right reasons, but then I suddenly started doing it for the wrong. And I was just like, I gotta make money somehow. And I'm fashion, this is lifestyle, this is what people like. So I started blogging about travel and all that. And then I just like fell off the path of it. I kind of stopped writing in like 2021, 2022. So I had the blog for a while. Um, and then I just fell off my spiritual path in 2022 until I got activated by my twin September 2022. And then that December, I started a new page again called Guided Space because I kept hearing the voice like from God or my higher self. I remember on Christmas Day, I woke up at 5 a.m. and it was just like, you have to create Guided Space again. And I was like, okay, I'm doing it.
So that's really profound in the sense that you met your twin flame. We'll talk about your twin flame journey, but in August, and literally 2, 3 months later, you're creating this like twin flame content. And
Well, it wasn't twin flame content yet. It was more spiritual content. And then I, because I was married at the time, so I was kind of scared to talk about twin flame stuff. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna create, spiritual content and get people just be on that path again because of my awakening, because of being closer to God. It was so enlightening, and I wanted to bring that light to others. And then I started sharing more about twin flames like January, February.
that's still quite soon though, because I remember like for me, it took me a while, and I was also worried like, do I make this content because more of my twin flame sees it? But also like you're going through the dark night of the soul, you're going through ego death, and like a lot of the divine feminines that reach out to us, like they're struggling. But you
Yeah.
provide services to help people with their struggles. So what are the services that you have? Because you've got Telegram, you've got lots of stuff. You do one-to-ones. What do you do?
Yeah. So I do one-on-ones, and I do weekly group calls. Every Thursday, I have weekly group calls at 4 p.m. GM time. What do you call it? Yeah, Greenwich. I always forget what it's called.
UK
I,
time.
I say Portugal time. I say Western European time.
Oh, it's the
Greenwich.
same, right? Lisbon and London, it's the same, yeah.
Yeah, we're the same. So 4 p.m. my time, which is 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, because most of my clients are in the US, and then 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Eastern Pacific Time, or Eastern Standard Time. I'm so sorry.
Well, it's very
So,
important that you do group sessions because so many twin flames reach out to me. I'm sure they do to you, and they're alone. They don't have any support. They don't have a community. So you provide that.
yeah, absolutely. I have to. I mean, I that's why I do the lives, like you. Like yesterday I did my group call at 4 p.m., but then I just felt so inspired to keep talking more. And I wanted, because of the group calls, because everybody gets a chance to talk. We do Q&A. I guide them, and everyone just brings a sense of peace to everybody on the call. That then afterwards, I felt inspired to do a live last night, so I did one on Instagram, and it was very powerful, about different topics. And it brings a lot of peace, I hope, anyway. And I do get a lot of messages from my followers, and it warms my heart because they're just like, you have taught me so much. You brought me a sense of peace. And they're people I've never even spoken to. So there's not even clients. It's just people who watch the videos, right? We are doing like so much work just by putting out content on there to help people because of like the obsessive stage that we also went through, because it is so difficult.
I mean,
So yeah.
isn't it hard when like everyone's at a different stage of the journey? So you're being bombarded with people in lives or messages or whatever, and some people are like totally transcended and enlightened, and some people are like, just, I want my twin flame. Why doesn't he or she do what I want them to do?
And it's, that's all the ego. Like, it's the egoic mind. And I always tell divine feminines, you have to, it's not letting go of the ego, because the ego is there to protect you in some way, but letting go of the egoic mind, letting go of control, letting go of like trying to control the outcome, because that puts you in your masculine, right? We have to surrender. So I'm always trying to teach women, or the divine feminines, everybody, really, everybody should do this. Surrender. Because it's no matter how hard you try to either force them out of your thoughts or force them to come back, you're making the journey harder for you. So you have to literally surrender and trust in God. The sooner that you trust in God's timing, because there is divine time. I believe that there is divine timing for everything. I know some people are like, oh, you can manifest your twin. I'm sorry, I don't believe that.
See, I was going to talk about that because, in a way, you kind of are manifesting because surrender is actually letting go and allowing, right? So
Yes.
Abraham Hicks talks about ask and then you shall receive. So you ask and then the universe provides and you just let it in. Even Bashar talks about it. So what it is we've already asked for our twin flame to the universe
Mhm.
or the ultimate lover, and all you have to do now is let go, let it in,
Yes.
let it in, let it in.
That is the only form of manifestation that I believe in. Okay. Because when we try, like, for example, I talked about this on my live last night, and it drives me up the wall that, that there are people out there saying, you can write a love letter and you can do the whisper method and you can make them fall in love with you. Do you know how toxic that is? And you're literally trying to manifest someone against their free will to come into your lives and tell you how much they want you. And guess what? It has worked for me, but then I got triggered. Yes, I got triggered because, like, my twin came back into my life and expressed how they feel. So I'm sure like what they were feeling was true, but it wasn't time yet.
Mm.
And it had to happen. It had to trigger me to see, like, to just let go. Don't try to force him to come into your life if he is not ready.
I
Right?
get that.
Why do we do that? Why are we so obsessed with wanting somebody that is not ready for us and that doesn't even want us? I mean, I'm sure they want us, but they're not ready. You
Yeah.
see why it's so important to just let go, like, it'll happen when it's meant to happen. And as soon as you actually surrender and allow it to happen, yes, it will happen. You may actually be fully surrendered. Like, people have been telling me lately, "Oh my god, Jessica," like on my lives. They're like, "Jessica, you seem so ready for union. I can see it. You've really fully surrendered and you're just like so calm and so peaceful." And I say, like, and then they say, "Well, why aren't you in union?" I'm like, "Because it's not just about me. It is not just about me. They have to be ready too." Why do people assume that when the divine feminine is ready, that the divine masculine is ready? That's not how it works, right? To a certain extent, yes, they will be ready when you're ready, but they also have their things to work on, especially if they have third parties. You know what I mean? Like if they're married or have someone else, they have to sort their stuff out. It is not easy to get out of a marriage. It's not easy, you know what I mean, and pack up their bags and
I find it interesting. It's almost like they're cooking in the oven, or like, they're getting, they're in the they you know, they're pregnant. It's taking a while. It's not time for being like giving birth. You don't want to eat your cake before it's like fully, you know.
dude, I literally say that all the time. I compare it to a turkey being cooked in the oven. I'm like, you're not gonna cook turkey meat that is not fully cooked. You want to wait till it's fully ready and juicy and like ready to eat.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it's not going to be edible. It's not going to be good. Why do
you're
you
gonna
want
get
something
food
that's not
poisoning.
yeah. Do
And
you want
then
it's
I
going
feel
to be
like
toxic?
I feel like the divine masculines, they're very aware in some respects in feeling wise, and they push us to where we need to get to, because we get very controlling, very in the egoic mind, and they will keep pushing, triggering until we're totally at that place of bliss. But I want to get into your background. Were you always spiritual? Were you always like, let's talk about, because your name sounds, I don't know, maybe it's Latin American. I don't know. What
It's Portuguese.
you're Portuguese? Oh, you are Portuguese. Okay.
So I'm Portuguese. I was born and raised in California, and then I moved to Portugal about 6 years ago. Um, because I wanted to come back to my roots. My ex and I did, and then we had our little girl here. Um, but yeah, that's my cultural background. What was your other question?
Yeah, just generally. So, who was Jessica as a young person? So, obviously, you've gone through the whole dynamic of having, a partner that you had to like move out from, which is a big thing. A lot of divine feminines I speak to, they say, they would rather the masculine showed up and dragged them out the house.
It's so sad. I find it so sad, and I get it. Um, I think for a lot of divine feminines, their thing is like, oh, I was so happy. I'm so happy with this soulmate. So how am I going to leave my soulmate? And what if I leave my soulmate and I don't get into union with my twin? Then what? Then it'll be worthless. It'll be pointless. That's how they think.
Yeah, that's a
Because
question. Do
a
you think?
lot of divine feminines are so scared to leave their spouse, even though they're not even in love with them. And they feel like, well, I don't want to start all over. And I don't want to. What if my twin doesn't even want me? It's not about union with your twin, babe. It is about you being happy and living authentically. If you are not in love with your spouse, what are you doing? Why are you wasting your time and their time? That is why I left. I wasn't in love with my husband anymore. I love him. I still love him as a person, as the father of my child. I am forever grateful for him. But we had many many tough issues, right? And I didn't leave him for my twin. I wanted to leave a long time ago, but I didn't have the courage because I wasn't living authentically until my twin came into my life and pushed me to live authentically. And I did what was right, and I connected with God, and every single time the more I connected to God, the more I was reminded this person that I'm with and trying to stay with is not for me. And it's not fair to him that I'm not being true to him by, trying to act happy. I can't be intimate with him because it makes me cry every time because I feel like I'm cheating on my soul, on my other half. Even though I've never been intimate with my other half, right? As crazy as it sounds, you explain this to somebody who's not spiritually awakened, they're going to think you're a whack job. But I don't care. This was the truth, and I even tried explaining it to my ex, like when we would try to be intimate. And I know this is very personal, but this is the truth. I am a very, you know, real person. Like I will be as real
Transparent.
and raw as it gets. We get to that point, and this is how I know when somebody is married and they're on the twin flame journey, they all experience this, where you cannot even sleep with your own spouse because you feel so wrong. And this happens even if you're not married and you try to date someone else and you feel disgusted with yourself. You feel like so wrong, like you are cheating on somebody, even if you've never been intimate with them, which I explain on my podcast. That's another thing I do is I have a podcast, and I talked about people who are married and meet their twin flame while being married. It is very, very difficult. But it's like I would rather be honest with myself, as hard as it was to tell him I'm not in love with you. Do you know that when I said that, my soul was giddy from the inside? It was literally excited, screaming with joy because I was speaking my truth to him. And I was like, oh my God, I feel like I want to smile because my soul, my higher self, is excited and proud of me for saying the truth. But yet I'm also sad at the same time because I know that this is hurting him. And so many of my clients have told me that they experienced the same thing upon telling their spouse that they were not in love with them.
There's a lot of people who struggle with this because they are financially secure, they have the children, or they have the house, and then they say there's no guarantee, and I used to read about this on Quora, and I was like, no, the twin flame journey is about getting my twin flame. I do my healing, I do my purpose, I need him, I need him, I need him. And on Quora it was always like, oh, but it's about ascension, it's about purification, it's about getting closer to God. And I was like, I don't want that.
Oh my gosh. I wanted all of that. I wanted to be ascended. I wanted, yes, of course, I wanted my twin flame too. Of course, in the beginning, you fix it. How do I get my twin? And again, Quora is one of the number one places we all go to for answers.
It is quite good. I like some of the stuff there.
Some of the answers you're just kind of like, okay, that doesn't resonate. But that's the thing, is you listen to your higher self and you know what is true and what isn't for your soul, for your specific journey.
How do
Because
you do that?
everyone's journey is individual and unique. But it's not about leaving your spouse for your twin. And I want all divine feminines to understand. And I know how hard it is when you are financially dependent on your spouse. I was too, and that was actually why I couldn't leave my spouse years ago when I wanted to, because I was scared. I wasn't working. I was this housewife. I took care of my child and I didn't have a job. And I would try to work, but nothing was there for me because it just, what I wanted to do was not meant for me. And that's why I say, like, everything happens in divine timing. I became a coach because that is what God wanted me to do. Every time I would meditate and I would say, God, how can I serve you? What is my purpose? How am I here to assist people? And I kept hearing every single time across the street at the beach, I would meditate and look at the sun and like get the same answer. You are here to help twin flames. And I'm like, and I felt it in my soul, like, yes, I feel that too. But then my ego would come in and say, but you're not in union with your twin, Jessica. How are you going to help twin flames? And then I would fight my ego and be like, I don't care. I don't care because I feel it. I'm passionate about this because what you are passionate about is what's meant for you. And I felt so strongly about it. And then the first time I made that YouTube video, talking about twin flames and how, it was a response to a woman who said, if a man really wanted you, he would go after you.
You
You
got
saw that video?
like a million views on it or something.
That was my first video that I ever made about twin flames. And I hadn't been on TikTok in ages. But my girlfriend was like, oh, yeah, I keep making videos on TikTok. And I'm just like talking. And I was like, oh, cool. So I see this girl's video. It was like one of the first ones on my feed. And I'm like, oh, no. I was like, I'm so tired of people thinking this way because this is toxic. Because so many dating coaches out there tell us that, like, oh, if a man really wanted you, he would. Yes, a part of that is true. But when it comes to twin flames, that is not true because they are so scared that they do run because they don't feel worthy of you. And so I go and explain that on a Friday, and by that Sunday I go back on TikTok 2 days later and the video went viral and I was like, people are messaging me asking me, "Hey, do you coach? Can you help me?" And I'm like, "Hold on a second. I've been hearing God's message telling me that I'm here to help twin flames." And then quickly it just, the followers were going up and up and up and up and up and I'm just like, "Okay, I think this means something. I think God's trying to tell me something." Because every other thing that I've tried to do in my life was an obstacle because it was not meant for me. And that is the thing, is when something becomes so difficult and you try so hard and it's not working out, it is because it's not for you, right? It doesn't mean like everything in life has to be easy, right? You do have to fight for the things that you want, but at times you have to just let go. And if it's not working out and it becomes more of an issue or more of an obstacle than it is easy, it's probably not for you. I was a massage therapist before doing this, and like I could not get clients for the life of me, and I'm good, but I like, and I was putting out advertisements and all this stuff and paying for ads, on social media, and I was messaging people, reaching out. It wouldn't work out because it was not meant for me.
So how do you listen to your higher self? Because a lot of us look at, those tarot readings and go researching and looking outside. How do we tap into that inner guidance?
Through meditation and asking your higher self to be with you, right? I would always ask my guides, God, higher self, please just give me an answer. And a lot of people think that they're gonna just like hear this voice like, you are meant to be a coach, like some deep godlike voice. And it wasn't like that. It was just like this sense of peace, while the thought, because it feels like a thought, right? Like your higher self, to me anyway, it feels like a thought. You get this, what's called, people say downloads. And to me, it was just like this thought, like, you're here to help twin flames. And it was a sense of peace when I felt it. And then as soon as my ego kicked in, what does that feel like? Fear. That is the difference between your ego and your heart, is that it's fear versus peace versus love. Okay. Your intuition and your heart always come from a place of love. Even when it's trying to warn you something, it doesn't feel anxious. When something is coming and it's your intuition telling you, it's not anxious. It's not out of fear. It's like a knowing, but a peaceful knowing. Whereas like when it's ego, it comes from fear. You're just like having all these doubts and you're panicking and you're having anxiety. That is your ego.
So is there a specific meditation that you do?
Oh, I do so many different ones. I started off this journey. I'm not gonna lie, when I first got activated, of course, I was going through the obsessive stage and I can't get him out of my head. And I went to a healer, a local healer here, and he helped me a bit. He was just like, hey, just go home and go do this like spiritual cleanse, like a bath cleanse. And I was like, all right, whatever. And I got to be honest, those first few days were hell. And I was like, what did that man do to me? Because like I was getting hurt, I was getting sick, like there was just like weird stuff happening. And I think it's because I was releasing stuff for me. And then something told me like, hey, why don't you do Reiki again? Because I'm a Reiki practitioner, but I hadn't done Reiki in like a year before that. I was like, okay, I'll try it. And so when you first get initiated into Reiki, you have to do Reiki for 21 consecutive days to really feel like the power of it, the strength. At least that's what I was taught when I became initiated. And so I did that. And so I did Reiki on myself every single day. And by week 2, I felt so enlightened. So enlightened, because I was balancing my chakras, which are your masculine and feminine energies, your centers. Like I just felt so good and I felt at peace. And obviously I hadn't fully surrendered at the time yet, because it was only like 2 weeks after no contact or something, or 3 weeks, you know what I mean? And at that point I didn't even know he was my twin yet.
So let's talk about your twin flame journey.
Should we?
Yes. Were you always seeking for that true love? Like, how did it happen to, like, I was always looking for true love, and I knew that my twin flame was in the Mediterranean. Not twin flame, sorry, my partner. So I got guided. What about you?
It's interesting that you say that. Is I was talking about this on my live yesterday. So I am Portuguese, like I said earlier, and so in California where I grew up, we have a lot of Portuguese people, a lot of Portuguese American, and most Portuguese people marry other Portuguese people. Like that's just like, everyone in the community, you grow up together, just like with any culture, right? And I would always say like, I don't want a Portuguese man. I just don't. I want myself an all-American like boy. Like I like white boys, okay? But like I just was trying to like find this all-American white boy, not specifically like I don't know, like so I would date like these white guys and I'm like, this is not it. And like yeah, I always had this like inner knowing that how can I say, that the one was out there since I was little. Like I just knew the one was out there. And I've also had a thing for military guys as well. He's in the military. And but I didn't like think, I didn't think anything of it when I saw him or whatever. So yeah, I
Do
feel
you
like I
think?
was always looking for the one. And what's really interesting is on an anonymous blog that I had, because I started writing anonymously, I'm just like about my own personal life without having to share my name. I wrote an article saying, I'm married, but is the one still out there? And this was a week or 2 weeks before connecting with my twin. But I didn't know about twin flames yet. It was just, it's mind blowing. It's very sad. I know it's like really sad. If my ex were to hear this, he would be very, very hurt. But it's true. Like I just knew he wasn't the one.
I feel like twin flames are pre-programmed from birth to have those clues of where and who and what.
Yep, they are.
The
When
templates.
when I had an Akashic record reading, it was July. Funny enough, it was on 7/17, July 17th last year. Um, I didn't go in with any expectations to know anything about my twin because I didn't know that we could know about other people. Because I just thought I knew nothing about Akashic record readings. I just thought it's she's gonna just tell me stuff about my past lives and that's it. I knew nothing. And she kept telling me stuff about my future. And I was like, what is going on? And this man and this baby and all this other stuff. And I'm like, what? And she then goes and tells me, like, it was your birthright. Since the day you were born, you were destined to be with this man. And you have this metallic cord between your heart and his heart that cannot be broken. And it has been with you in all of your lifetimes, no matter how far apart you were, even when you didn't meet. And I thought, what in the world? And she didn't know about my twin flame or anything like that. I never even asked about him. You know what I mean? So it just goes to show that yes, it is programmed since the day you are born to have this connection with this person.
Well, from the moment you were created, right?
Yeah.
Because you're created together. So, what year did you meet your twin flame?
I met him in 2009, but I didn't get activated then.
So, you met him as a friend, or he was at an event, or
Oh, we're really going deep into this, huh?
well, you can share what you want to share, and then it's up to you.
Oh man.
Whatever
he
you.
he watches my videos, so that's why I'm just kind of
So
like
does mine. There you go. I have to be very careful, also.
I mean, I don't care. Like at this point, I don't care. He's already confessed his feelings, and if it triggers him, it triggers him. I love my journey. I love how we met, and I know he does too. Like it's astounding um the connection, how it never died over so many years. You know, we connected in 2009. I'll tell you. So we connected in 2009. We met in the Azores. He was stationed in the military there, and I was there on vacation visiting my family. And unfortunately, when we met, I don't really remember meeting him. We both don't really remember talking. We were distracted. I mean, it was just a big festival and all this stuff. I just remember thinking, wow, he's really cute. However, I found out that my cousin's best friend was into him and I was also dating someone else. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to step on any toes and get any more distractions. I'm just going to let him be. But I always thought, wow, he's really cute. When I got home from vacation and I found out he was actually from my home state, from California. When I got home from vacation, I found him on social media, I guess, and we started talking on Facebook Messenger at the time and would go back and forth talking from time to time. And then he was stationed, went off to war and whatnot. And then we talked about meeting up several times um, in Southern California, but it never happened. And what's really interesting is like a couple of the times that we tried to meet up, we would literally be in the same place, like off by one day. So it wasn't able to ever happen. And what's interesting is my Akashic record reading, that lady I told you about, she said that it was never meant to happen before because had we met, had we dated, been together at the time when we first met, it wouldn't have worked out because I was not spiritually mature yet. I was not mature enough and I was not evolved enough for us to be together. And I had to marry my husband to have our child and for me to grow. And he had to marry his wife to be the best partner for me. So it's like we're both learning from our spouses. This is why, we have to have karmic lessons and be with other people to learn and to grow, right? Um, so that was that. And then we talked online on and off for a year. That was it till 2010. And then I never heard from him again. And then come 2022, ironically, it was his birthday weekend and I didn't know. I didn't know when his birthday was. My ex decides and says, "Hey, do you want to watch this movie? It's called Purple Hearts, and it's the military, the military guy who dates the singer." I said, "Yeah, sure, why not?" I'm watching it, and all of a sudden, I think about him, and I hadn't thought about him in years. And I said, "Oh my God, whatever happened to him?" And it wasn't like I was like super infatuated with him, but I do remember like having a crush. We had a crush on each other. Like we get a little flirty, but nothing crazy. And so I decided to look for him. And I remember I even asked my friend, the one who liked him, I said, "Hey, do you remember his last name?" And she told me. So I go and like look for him on social media and send him a friend request. Didn't send him any messages or anything because I was like, whatever, I'm gonna leave this in God's hands. And the very next day, the very next morning, he sent me a message and he remembered who I was. And he said he felt fireworks when he saw my photos. And the moment I saw his photo, my heart sank into my stomach. And I thought, what the heck is this? Never have I ever seen photos from exes or guys that I've dated in the past and still felt feelings for them or still felt anything. I mean, even guys that I've like been obsessed with in the past, like this one karmic guy that I dated and was like so infatuated and like obsessed with. I look at photos of him now and I'm like, I feel nothing.
So you talked about you're like, what is this? And you thanked God. Have you always been into God? Because for me, I was, but then I kind of dropped that because I'm gay, and then I started to call it the universe and whatever else. But I've recently gone back to that, and twin flames do ask me, is God needed on this path?
Absolutely. It brings you closer to God. Yeah, like I've always been very spiritual and I grew up Catholic, but it was much deeper than that. Like I've known since I was a little girl, like there's just like this big deep connection with God that I feel. Whereas like a lot of my friends didn't really care for that. They didn't like understand. They're just like, ah, whatever. Yeah, I pray. Yeah, I go to church. But I always just wanted to get closer and closer to God. And I wanted to help people. I knew that my mission on earth since I was little was to help people. Even though I love theater and performing and all that stuff, those were hobbies, but I knew I was meant to help people. And but yeah, I did fall off the course, the spiritual path a little bit as well. Like I said, in 2022, I was kind of questioning everything, not questioning God, but just like I didn't know, like I don't know, I was just lost. I was lost in life. Okay. And then it was after that awakening, being activated by him, connecting with him, and then going through Dark
So
Night of
what
Soul. I
happened? So
just
you sent him the request. Did he accept the request, the Facebook request? He didn't.
No, it wasn't on Facebook, it was Instagram. He didn't accept it, and I think it's because he's married. And so we would just message each other through there. But then it went to email because military, because that's just how they are. It's all about emails. So, God, I feel so vulnerable sharing all this stuff. But
No,
you know,
it's
it is.
interesting because I also felt like I had a purpose on Earth, and mine also progressed to email. But carry on.
Oh my God. Mm. And this is the interesting thing too, is like the more when I started coaching, I was getting so many clients with similar journeys to mine. And you attract those people who are on similar journeys so that you can help them. And I ended up like I remember in the beginning when I first started coaching, I remember having this really weird dream that I was in the back seat of my twin's car and I saw a picture of his wife and then I saw a picture of this blonde and I was like, "Oh, great! So he's got two women in his life." Like that was the thought that I had. Who knows? Maybe he did. But what was interesting is I then ended up meeting. I had this a one-on-one with a woman who looked exactly like the blonde in the photo in that dream, and she had the same clothes and everything. And when I looked at her social media, because we ended up becoming friends, when I ended up looking at her social media, she had a picture of herself in this pink blazer jacket that was the same, and the same pose and everything in that photo. So it was just like almost like a premonition of meeting somebody that was going to be going on a similar journey. Her twin is not in the military, but what's interesting is in that photo where she was wearing the pink blazer jacket, she was at a military conference.
Wow. So you're quite
What?
intuitive, or you see things, right? I also get visions, but I think yours is quite profound, like quite, yeah.
Sometimes I've been able to channel a lot more lately. I've been getting a lot of visions lately. I've been like, just yesterday I was at the hospital with, visiting my mom because she's sick, and there's a lady who's there next to her, and she was telling me about how her son got murdered 2 months ago, but they don't know where his body is. And so I was like, well, let me see if I can tap into it, right? And right away I got like the sense of water, a vision of water, and a vision of like a big, kept showing me like a big dumpster truck, like a big, big, massive dumpster truck. And it kept showing me over and over. And I said, okay, I'm not going to ignore that. Clearly, like either maybe he's by the water, or he's in a garbage container. They disposed his body. And I remember seeing, it was nighttime. And then I started feeling this weird pain on my left leg, on my calf area. And I knew it wasn't mine. It was energetic, because, we can tap into people's energies. And so I asked the woman, I said, I told her, I said, I can tap into things sometimes, I can channel. And I said, I'm seeing water and like big, trash container. And she goes, well, where they killed him, that's where he was. It was in an area where it was like a big trash facility by the water. I said, you got to be kidding me. And the pain on my leg, it was because he ended up having a tattoo on his leg that really hurt him, and the tattoo was of a weapon.
Right. So have you always had these visions, or they got more after your twin flame?
I did get a lot of visions back, like when I first started meditating in 2016. They were very profound then. However, I would ignore it and think that it was just all in my head. And it wasn't until this journey I started seeing a lot more, because with meditation, you start heightening your visions and your practices, your intuition, your third eye, and all that stuff. So yeah, the gifts, they come online, right? And I think this happens to everybody. The more you meditate and the more you practice and everything, your gifts start to come online. But
And
yeah.
especially for twin flames, there's a lot of gifts. So after you emailed, what happened? We're so interested in this story.
Oh God. There was the love bubble phase, of course, just the whole really, you know, sexual content, like, just like the back and forth talking, and like I couldn't understand it. I was like, I don't understand why I'm so drawn to this man, and we are so hot and fiery for one another. Um and it just got a little got a little provocative. And of course, as all twin flames are, you can't explain the fiery connection.
Yeah.
And then
It's a very strong sexual attraction.
a huge sexual attraction. And then I ended up I felt him pulling away. So this was August that we connected. And then September, I felt him pulling away. And I started kind of going through my dark night of the soul already a little bit, right? Because I was just like, oh my God, I was getting that anxious energy. Like, why is he pulling away? We were just doing fine. Like, well, like there was a love bubble phase. And I know a lot of people think like, oh, it's just a trauma bond. Oh, this is just what guys do. Like they just, they just like the chase and the hunt. And I remember having like actually had an outer body experience. I'm not even going to get into that, but it's an outer body experience upon a sexual activity, I should say. Okay.
It's,
Um,
I wanted to just get in there and say, some people say, oh, I don't have any, like they make twin flames as their friend, or like there's no sexual chemistry. And it's like, for me, it's like a twin flame is sexual. It's a relationship of some sort. It's a connection, right? Yeah.
mhm. But I have heard I think it's like, I've heard people say like the Monad twins are like that, where it's like friends. I don't really know. I haven't gotten deep because it doesn't resonate so much for me. And I don't know, I don't channel into that, maybe because I'm not one, right? So it's not my job. Uh, if it resonates for you, I just personally, I don't feel that twin flames can be just friends. I don't.
I have
It,
people, I've seen things where people are saying, like, my twin flame is my dog. Like, what is going, everyone's a twin flame apparently these days.
your dog? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, people are saying this, and this twin flame label now, it's like, I saw a Tinder advert on YouTube and it was find your twin flame. Like, what do you think about these people who go looking for their twin flames?
You can't. You don't look for your twin flame. It happens. Like this is why it sucks that one docu. Well, actually, there was two docu series about twin flames, and it was about twin flames universe. My take on it was how corrupt these people were. Twin flames universe. Not so much on the twin flame label, but however, unfortunately, people misunderstood it and said, "Oh my God, twin flames aren't real. Look at what these people are doing." They think that you can just change your sex to become the divine masculine, and it's like that's not real twin flames, guys. Like, it annoyed the crap out of me, and I'm like, you know what, if people want to believe it, then they believe
And
it.
it's not a fairy tale romance. I talk about this often, because you've got the obsession phase. You talked about you started going through the dark night, and then what happened?
I mean, to me it was very fairy tale, because it's like, oh my God, I haven't talked to this guy in 12, 13 years, and I still we feel this crazy sexual passionate connection with one another. And I was just like, I have to see him. I have to see him. I was literally going crazy. And oh God, I cringe when I look back at my past. And so
But
I ended up,
you have to go through it.
you have to go through it. I know, I know, I know. You have to go through it. But it's it was really, really intense. And I ended up going to Tennessee for my girlfriend's wedding. And so for us, it was like, oh my God, you're going to be in Tennessee. He's in California. So it brings like more time for us to, we don't have the 8 hour difference. It would be just like 2 or 3 hours, right? Which is a lot better. However, he did not really communicate with me when I was in Tennessee. And so it triggered the crap out of me. So the day that I arrived in Tennessee, I will never forget when I was on the plane on my flight there. I was seeing numbers up the wazoo, and I kept seeing, I think it was 2222, 1221, and 2112. I kept seeing that and 1441. 1441 was haunting me, and 1221 and 2112. And it was like, it was mirrored, right? And I remember I was talking to these two guys on the plane, like the three of us just like really connected as buddies. And like, we were talking about the numbers, and I was like, I can't stop with these damn numbers. This is insane. So I get to my hotel room, and I'm like crying uncontrollably, and I'm shaking, and I was like, what is happening to me? I didn't know what was going on, and I thought, there's no way that this is about him, because we barely know each other. Like, sure, I met him years ago, but like, this is not normal for me to act this way about a man I've never acted that way. I was boy crazy, but I've never cried uncontrollably over a man like that. So I thought, there's no way this is about him. Something's happening. Maybe it's just because of my travel. I'm jet lagged. I haven't gotten much sleep. And then it was happening almost every night. If I was out and about, I was fine. I was distracted, although like he would be in the back of my mind. But as soon as I was alone, I was crying hysterically. It was horrible. And then I get to Nashville, because that was in a different part of Tennessee. I'm really going through the whole journey. I get to Nashville, and then I remember it was on September 11th. Is 9/11, is that a thing for you too? Because I know that that's been an important date for a lot of people. And it was 9/11, and I was just sitting there crying in my bed, didn't want to do anything. And I'm in Nashville, a city I've always wanted to go to, the city of music and stars and all that stuff. And instead, I choose to just stay in my hotel room. I sleep, and I'm crying. And all of a sudden, I get an email from him. And I'm like, ah, right? And I'm just so excited. And we like, the connection was there again. And then like, I'm like, okay, I feel a little better. We had this nice talk and everything, and I go out. Then the next day I message him. I hear nothing from him. And I thought, okay, all right, whatever. Then the day after that, I was supposed to stay in Tennessee for like 2 more days, and I was going crazy. And I called my parents and I said, I can't stop crying. I need to go home. I need to go home. I need to go home. You know that feeling of needing to go home. It's not physically your parents' home, but you don't know that. Your soul wants to go home. So what happened is I kept wanting to go home, and I didn't realize that it was him, but I was like, I don't want to go home to my ex and my daughter because I can't go looking like this and feeling like this. So I think I'm going to go home, so I'm going to go visit my parents. So I extend my trip and I go visit my parents in California. I'm still having anxiety. I'm still going crazy. I'm still crying and I cannot control the shaking and all that. And then suddenly I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to go for a drive. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going to drive. I need to be by the beach. I feel like I need to go by the beach. I need to drive. And I kept seeing things like Santa Barbara, and I had to go to Santa Barbara, and I didn't know, like, I just needed to go. It was going crazy. And so I drove, and I drove for 4 hours like a maniac, just needing to get out. And then I almost died. My car would not reverse. Like, yeah, it was bad. I literally thought I was going to die that day. It was the worst night of my life. And then I drove home the next day, and then I flew home to Portugal that day. And then that was essentially when my awakening started. Like, I wanted to go seek help from a spiritual healer. And that first night that I went home, I ended up having a dream about him. I think I astral traveled, and I dreamt of his grandfather. And his grandfather was surrounded in white light. And my twin and I were hugging, and it was like I could feel his warm energy. So I was like, okay, what is this? This is weird.
So what's the current situation with your twin flame now?
We are really getting personal
is it
today.
you can keep it general. Is it more like weaving, like Regina talks about, like in and out, like you're still alchemizing energy?
I think what's interesting about the journey, like, so many people, so many divine feminines, divine masculines come in and out of their lives frequently, right? My theory on that is because they're not doing the soul work. They're not focusing on their growth. They're not focusing on the connection with God and their higher self. They're not meditating. They're not doing what they're supposed to. And I think that's why, because I was doing that automatically, like right away, I was like, I need to heal. I need to connect with myself. And I remember hearing from, Kurt Johnson, New World All-Star, you got to detach. You have to stop looking at their social media, or you have to stop with the tarot reading. So I did. I stopped all that. I tried to detach as much as I could. Obviously, it didn't happen overnight, but like I just started going within. And so I didn't hear from my twin for almost a year. Um and then we were talking on and off for a month, and then he took off again. And I wasn't even triggered that time. So that on and off in the month, I was triggered a little bit. I was like, oh, he came back, but he's ghosting again. What the heck? And it was like, for me to get triggered, it was for me to shed the rest of my ego that I cannot, and to learn and to know and understand, you cannot manifest your twin. You cannot force your twin to be in your life. Because I was trying to.
You can't control it.
No, I was trying to manifest him at that point, because I felt he was coming. I really did. I felt he was coming. I was just like, what the heck, dude? Like, I have been at this for so long, and I know I'm in my power. And I was like, I deserve an email. And he did the very next day. And then I was like, oh. But I was like super chill. I was like cool as a cucumber. I wasn't like, oh my God. I wasn't, because I was trying to maintain that balance. But then, of course, like, then all of a sudden you start to give in, even though they're giving you breadcrumbs, you start to give in. And that's horrible, right? You have to step back and not give them your all. Because if they haven't come in with an offer and say, hey, like, I want to be with you, I want to do this with you, I love you, or whatever it is, declaring their love for you, you cannot, as a divine feminine, be giving them your all, because they are going to take off again. And that was my lesson to learn, even though I already knew that, but I had to be tested by experiencing it again, or experiencing it myself. Because all these other divine feminines were just like, oh, he keeps coming in and out of my life.
Yeah.
right?
No,
And I'm like,
no boundaries or no like concrete like offer that they are giving to you. So do you
yeah,
think everyone's going to get into union? Like, do you think union is a birthright for all twin flames?
for all twin flames, I don't know.
What
I
about
honestly,
for yourself?
yes. 100%. I mean, I've had confirmation, I've had my doubts, but I don't doubt it anymore. My intuition, and we have the most, like, people ask me how I have faith. Like, I'm married, he's married as far as I know. I mean, I'm getting divorced. We're separated, but um and he knows that too. I told him when we got into communication. But um he did not talk about his marriage, right? So that was another big sign that he's not ready. And so I feel like, our journey can seem so difficult. We're in completely different continents, countries, whatever, and we're so far apart, and we're, the third party situation. However, I do feel it'll happen. When? I don't know. And I don't really care. It's just, it'll happen when it's meant to happen. And I do feel that sorry, I know you wanted to say something. I do, I do feel that when divine feminines fully surrender and get in their power and they're on their purpose, and they're listening to their higher selves, they will then get into union. But it does take time, because it's not just about the divine feminine, it's also about the divine masculine tying up their loose ends and finishing what they have to do
And
and doing their work.
catching up, yeah. So have you not physically seen your twin flame since that time you met in that festival in Portugal?
Since 2009, only through pictures and one video call.
Okay, a video call's good.
That was not, yeah, I think that was what triggered him.
So
That was when he ran.
what inner work have you done, and what do you recommend for the people watching today? What should people be doing?
Meditating every single day.
How long?
However long it takes. I mean, when I first did this, I was doing it like 20 minutes to an hour a day at times. And then I would do it like in the morning and at night. Um Now I don't meditate as often. I mean, I'll meditate every single day, but I may not do it as long. It's when my body, when my soul feels like I need to, right? I will call upon it. But I do it usually every day.
I've had to meditate sometimes 8 to 10 hours when I'm severely triggered. Severely triggered.
Yeah, yeah. When you're severely triggered, definitely. Um,
Because it's so painful. You feel like you're dying.
yeah. For me, when I would feel like, sometimes it's so hard for me to meditate when I'm that triggered. So what I would do is I would sleep it off. I'd have to cry and sleep it off. Right. That was my form of medicine. 12:21 right now. I would have to cry, sleep it off, think about it, and reflect. I would write. That was another thing, actually, is I was writing. So a big part of this journey, because it awakens your creativity as well, the divine feminines, it brings up their creative passions. And for me, I started writing, and it was a form of therapy for myself, was writing out my feelings and my story. And it was through that, was when I was writing out my story anonymously on medium.com. That was when I found out about twin flames.
And you've had this vision of the DMs stampeding their way through. So can we hear about that? Because we're coming towards the end of the interview, so I just want to get
Yeah.
all the juice that I can from Jessica.
Oh boy. So I had this vision on Sunday, about a week ago. And I didn't want to mention it because I don't want to get the divine feminine's hope up. I don't want to give them false hope. I don't want them to fixate like, oh my God, the divine masculine's coming. Yes, yes, yes. Oh my God, great, he's coming. No, because I still want you to do the work. I want you to keep focusing on yourself and not obsess on them, because it's not about them. Before we get off the call, I want to remind the divine feminines, this is not about your divine masculine. This is not about getting into union with your divine masculine. This is about you rising. You need to take them off the pedestal and put yourself on the pedestal, right? You need to surrender. And I know it's so hard. I know it's difficult. And you're kind of like, when you go into no contact with them for like a day or a week, it feels like eternity. Okay. this is exactly why meditation is so important, because like you said, you had to meditate for 8 hours at a time sometimes when you were severely triggered. That is wonderful. I think that's powerful. When you feel triggered, try to meditate. However, I know it's really hard for people to do that because they're just like, I can't, because these, I can't get off my mind. But that's why the breathing exercises are so important. So don't fixate on the union. Because that's not what this journey is about. This journey is about you rising. This journey is about you having that spiritual evolution. And that's why when we get awakened, we become our true selves. We become into alignment with our truest selves, and we shed what no longer serves us, such as those marriages, right? Those relationships that we're not actually happy in, or those jobs we're not happy in, or those friends that are not doing us any favor. They're just gossiping and doing 3D stuff that don't serve any purpose for our lives, right? So remember that this journey, although yes, we love them unconditionally, you got to take them off the pedestal and put yourself on the pedestal and focus on your growth, your expansion, and your evolution. Now,
The
to get
vision.
to
Yes.
get to the vision, I had to mention that, okay, because it's very important, because we're kind of going into like the giddy stuff, like about my journey and whatnot, and that's kind of why I don't want to share so much about my journey, because it's not, although I love it, it's very, I feel like it's romantic in a way. I don't want to fixate on that because it's about the growth. Okay. So the vision I had last Sunday, because I've been getting visions like crazy past few weeks. I was meditating in a yoga meditation session, and I suddenly see my DM, or I didn't see him, but the thought of him crossed my mind. And I thought, oh, okay, just popped up in my head. And then suddenly I see this big lion, a big, massive lion. And I thought, oh, okay, well, maybe because, he's a Leo, but lions are also all about courage and strength and whatnot. And is yours a Leo too?
No, mine's a Libra.
Oh, okay. Because I thought you like rolling your eyes.
I was thinking lions, divine masculines, that's their role, to be that courageous protector.
Exactly. And so what I saw was this big lion just looking right at me. And I thought, oh, wow, that's so beautiful. And then suddenly, suddenly I see a big stampede of lions running towards my direction, calmly, not running like crazy, but they're running and they're all together. And it's like hundreds of lions, male lions, not lionesses, lions with the big manes. And they're all coming, and they're not running away from me. They're running towards me. And then they go like this, because I see them passing by. Right. And what does that mean? Right. I asked, when I talked about this on my live yesterday, I asked the divine feminines, I said, what does this vision mean to you guys? How would you interpret this? And they all said the same thing, that it is them taking courage and they are running towards their divine feminine. They're not running away. They're running towards the divine, because they're all running towards my direction. I am divine feminine, right? Okay. So I'm going to see them running towards, and that's the thing is I really do feel that as a collective, we are going to be coming into union as a collective. Obviously, not everybody at the same time, because it depends on your growth. It depends on your journey. Although I do feel that so many of us, no matter when you got awakened, suddenly I feel like a lot of us are on the same timeline. Because if you think about it, you have people who awakened 2020, 2021, and then you have people who awakened 22, 2023, and yet somehow we're all on the same darn timeline. And that's why I find it very interesting. People who got activated in 2023, and even this year, they're not really having so much of the runner chaser. I don't know if you've noticed this, and I should talk about this in a video, but the people who got activated in 2023 are not experiencing the divine masculines running. I've had a couple different clients, which is really interesting. Their stories were very similar, where they're both married to soulmates. They both have, I think they both have children, and they got activated by their divine masculine, and when have being intimate with their divine masculine, although I say you shouldn't do that while you're married, because that does add karma. But when they were intimate with their divine masculine, they felt outer body experiences, and they were both experiencing seeing other dimensions. not just the divine feminines, the divine masculines too. They literally were like, what was that? Did you see that? And this is why twin flame intimacy is so intense, and it's like you have to be ready for it. But because the veil is thinning, right? Everybody's waking up. We're entering the age of Aquarius, right? Pluto has entered Aquarius. So we're now waking up so much more. And I think this is why so many people are awakening what seems like faster. Okay. But really we're all meeting at the same, it's almost like we're all getting to the finish line at the same time. We're
I
all
wonder what's going to happen next. But
like, it's almost like a race if you think about it, right? Like, here's 20, like, imagine people in 2021, they get a head start, but yet they're still back here. And then you got people in 2022, then they started here, but yet they're catching up to 2021, and then 2023, and then we're all here, and it's like,
we're all
how
lining
is
up. We're lining up.
we're lining up, and it's bizarre. However, but I still do have people who are who are still behind on the journey. I don't want to say behind, but they're still in the obsessive stage. Like, there was a girl on my live yesterday who was absolutely losing her mind, saying, we were so close to union, and he came back, but then he ran again, and I don't know what to do. I need to talk to somebody. She was literally going crazy, and I felt so bad for her. And then come to find out, I get a message from her. I check the messages after my live, and she's like, we're married, so I'm married, so I can't pay for a session because then my husband will see the credit in the account. And I'm like, then there's no way you're close to union if you're married, babe. Like, what?
I always used to think like time and it's going to take ages and the divine masculines will take forever and da, da, da. But I realized change can happen in an instant. Okay.
Yes.
You awaken, they awaken, and it can happen. So just do your inner work, dedicate to yourself, devote yourself to God, help people, ascend. And we can talk for hours. But if you want to have people want to catch up with you, they can catch you on your podcast. Is it also called Guided Space? Where is it available?
It's on Spotify. I haven't made it available to other platforms yet, but it is on Spotify. It's Guided Space. Yeah. So if you actually just go to the link on my bio, like on TikTok or Instagram, you can see, because I did one of those kind of like what do you call it? It's called beacons, but it's kind of like a link tree where I just put all the different, it makes it easier instead of them going to my website and trying to look for everything. Cause I have so many different things, tools that people can go to. So, a link for the weekly calls, a link for the Telegram app, community, a link for the one-on-ones, and a link for the podcast, a link for my playlist, like meditation playlists and all that stuff. Because I help people and I say, here's the meditation playlist on YouTube that I created. Go check it out. I want you guys to start meditating, right? Here are some good ones that I really love, like connecting with your higher self, how to open your third eye, how to clear your energy in the mornings, Tony Robbins, how to prime you up and get you pumped up for the day. Things that I find very resourceful for people to expand their growth, right? It's so important. It's not about doing so much shadow work. People get so obsessed, like, okay, I need to heal, so I'm going to do shadow work and I'm going to do breath work and all this stuff, right? Like, yeah, those techniques are useful, but I feel like you shouldn't force it. I think people get so obsessed with like
the doing. The doing. I'm not the being.
Exactly. They get so obsessed with forcing the healing that's not healing, right? We heal as things come up, right? I'm not going to go, like, I had a shadow workbook and I was like, it's not resonating for me. I'm going to heal as things come up, because that's what happens on this journey. Is your triggers and traumas will come to surface
layer by
when
layer,
it is day by day, or one at a time, to heal when it is time to heal. And that's exactly why I say everything is in divine timing. Like, that's literally, like, that's just my answer for everything. So I have a couple different podcast episodes that are in the works. I'm working on them. One's going to be a lot about like manifestation versus divine timing, which is kind of what I talked about today, free will and all that stuff, which I made a video on that, but I wanted to go more in depth. And then another one on like past lives, and I'll talk about Akashic record readings and my experience with it. And then another one I wanted to talk about was sexual chemistry between twin flames. I find it's very, very important to know about that because so many people ask me, I don't understand why I'm feeling these sensations down there. What is happening? Right?
It's the
It's
Kundalini.
the
Yeah.
kundalini, and then you have the energy rising. Like, it is so important that people understand this because then they feel like they're going crazy.
Yeah, and luckily we've got people like you, and everyone should follow you because you've got loads of knowledge and information, resources, and support. We'll have to do a part two because yeah, we can talk for hours. But thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be vulnerable and open. That was my first time really sharing so much of my story. Um, it's private, but at the same time, it's like, look, it's the truth, right? It's the truth, and eventually people are going to find out. And if it triggers my divine masculine, heck, it triggers my divine masculine. It's something for him to work on. I'm not going to hide my truth, right? And that's the purpose of this year of the year 8, 2024, is stepping into your power and speaking your truth and being true to yourself, being 1000% authentic. So this is me.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.